الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين اما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, once again to our halaqat. Today, inshallah, we'll dedicate another session to reviewing the khutbah. As we mentioned in the past, the khutbah is very limited in terms of time. Alhamdulillah, we try to cover both the khutbah and the salah within 30 minutes. And you can imagine how difficult it is to get across a topic within that time period. So we might use these type of halaqat from time to time to expand and to explain the khutbah a little bit more. Having said that, today is even more important because we want to correct a mistake that happened in the khutbah. Whilst I was giving the khutbah, there was a lapse in terms of the topic that we spoke about, Surah al-Duha. And we mentioned in the khutbah that Surah al-Duha came after Iqra and Mudaththir and Muzammil, when in reality it came a little bit later. Another thing that we did not expand on during the khutbah was the fact that the revelation, the wahi that the Prophet ﷺ received, it stopped 2 times, not just once, it stopped 2 times. So in the very beginning, when the Prophet ﷺ received Surah Al-Alaq, when he received that, and after a short period of time, there was a gap. Now, many of the scholars, they have difference of opinion of how long this initial gap was in the revelation. And many of the mushrikeen, they used this to make fun of the Prophet ﷺ. And they used to say, if the Quran truly was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there would be no gap and it would be continuous. And some of the people in Quraysh, there's a hadith of a woman who would say to the Prophet ﷺ that the shaitan that came to you has left you now. And this is all making fun of the Prophet ﷺ and the revelation. But the scholars in Islam, they highlight wisdom, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the revelation to stop. From amongst it is, the main wisdom is that by stopping the revelation, it gave the Prophet ﷺ something to look forward to, and he had that energy and that want to receive more revelation. And this is something that we can all relate to sometimes at work or even in our daily life. If you take a break and then you come back with more energy, with more focus, as opposed to if you were to continue working without a break. On top of that, the scholars of Islam have said this comment that the mushrikeen made, saying that if the Quran had been from Allah, then it would not have stopped. This is a baseless claim. It is something that they made up. And it's not the first time they've made such a claim. They said to the Prophet ﷺ before that, why is the Quran not revealed jumlatan wahida, all at once? We want the Quran, the whole Quran, to be revealed one time. So you see that the mushrikeen, they will always try to find reasons or excuses rather to disbelieve in the message of Allah. So when they say that the Quran had stopped and they use that as evidence, it is not evidence at all. So the first time it stopped was in the very beginning, and the topic of the khutbah was Surah al-Duha. And there was also a second gap in the revelation. This gap was much shorter. The first gap, some of the scholars in Islam have said that the time period was very long. Some they say months. Some, like Ahmed bin Hanbal in his book Tariq, he mentions specifically that the time period was 3 years. 3 years without any Quran being revealed. But again, there's difference of opinion in that. The second time that the revelation stopped, and after that, Surah Al-Duha was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. The gap then, according to some scholars, and this is actually a hadith that is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, the gap was 2 or 3 nights. 2 or 3 nights, there was no revelation to the Prophet ﷺ. So if you remember, if you were present for the first khutbah, we highlighted how this stop in revelation caused the Prophet ﷺ distress. It caused him sadness. On top of that, what the mushrikeen, what the kuffar used to say to the Prophet ﷺ, and this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this particular surah, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. And as we highlighted in the khutbah, the point of the surah is to give comfort to the Prophet ﷺ. It starts off with a qasam, oath that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reassures the Prophet ﷺ, your Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not left you, وَمَا قَلَى, and He is not upset or angry with you. And if you look at this surah from the point of view as a reader, it gives a lot of comfort regardless of your situation. You might be going through something completely different to what the Prophet ﷺ went through. But if you look at this surah and you really contemplate and think about the message of the surah, it will give you comfort. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the duha, the morning light. And we explained that in the khutbah, that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking this oath, it gives comfort to the believer that after every darkness, there's going to be a sunshine, there's going to be light after that darkness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in other parts of the Quran, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And these are days that we move around amongst people, meaning one day you have a happy day, you have a very easy day, and another day you have a difficult day. And this is from the hikmah, from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah Azza wa Jalla starts with an oath, and whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, it is not something to be taken lightly. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, you should really pay close attention to what comes after the oath. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. The fact that these two things are mentioned together, Allah has not left you and Allah is not upset with you. If you think about it and you let it resonate within yourself, it shows how the believer should go about a difficult time in life. Many human beings, they will use the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them to show as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them. When in reality that is not always the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives from this dunya both to the kafir and the mu'min. So the point here, brothers and sisters, is that you should not only look at the materialistic, the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, but you need to think beyond that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Qarun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to all these people, even though they were disbelievers. So we need to really reevaluate one thing that is mentioned in the Quran about the mushrikeen, the kuffar of Quraysh. They used to take it as a pride and as a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them, the fact that they used to take care of the Kaaba. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights this in the Quran. أَجْعَلْتُمْ سِقَايَةَ الْحَاجِ وَعِمَارَةَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ Have you made this, you taking care of the Bayt al-Haram, the Kaaba, as if to mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you? This is not the case. So we need to understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us, we acknowledge it, but at the same time, it is not always a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a person. ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse highlights to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that what will come after in the Akhirah, Jannah and so on, and meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, خير لك من الأولى, it is better than what has passed. And this is a very effective way to deal with depression as a whole. That if you put things into perspective, yes, things are not going your way. Yes, there's sadness, there's loss. But if you remember that there's greater things in life, it's like the example that we gave in the khutbah. A man once said, I was upset and angry and sad that I did not have any shoes. I was upset and angry that I did not have any shoes until I met someone who had no feet. Until I met someone who had no feet. And that is not to take away from a person's difficult state, but it's to highlight that everything is understood in its context. This difficulty that you're facing, if you compare it to the na'im, the blessings in Jannah, which is abadan khalidina fiha abada, that they will remain in Jannah forever, if you compare that to the distress that you feel one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, it is not something that you can even compare to. So as a believer, you always look forward and you do not look or focus on that particular thing that is going in an opposite way. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَىٰ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you and something that will please you. And this again, it reaffirms that mindset. If you think that yes, I'm going through a difficult time now, I'm going through a divorce, I'm going through this and that, but you know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for you in store is far greater than the difficulty that you're going through now, then it gives peace to the heart. After that, in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically changes the focus of the Prophet ﷺ, and he mentions to him his blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown him. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى, and so on. What is the benefit of this? Is it just that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet ﷺ, I have done this for you, I have done that for you? There's a benefit, there's a hidden secret to it. And the scholars in Islam, they say, the secret here is it shows us how to deal with sadness and depression. And again, it is linked to the point that we mentioned before. If you think just for a moment about the many blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in your life, it will make the sadness feel not insignificant, but it will feel very small in comparison. Let's say something big happens to you. You lose a loved one, you go through difficulty in life like everyone else, and then you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me. I have my health, I have my eyesight, I can do the things that I need to do, I am independent and so on. These are things that the more you focus on the blessings, the more it will take away from the feeling of loss that you might have. And this is mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ in many ahadith. And there's a story that I've mentioned once before, and I'll repeat it, and I'll keep it brief, inshallah. This is a real story of a billionaire, okay? A billionaire with a B, not a millionaire. This man had wealth that we can't even imagine, right? And this happened not too long ago. When the financial crisis happened in 2008, what happened was this man He was a billionaire. I forget how wealthy he was, maybe $12 billion. And overnight, he lost more than half of his wealth overnight. Now, instead of having $12 billion, he woke up and he only had a fraction of it. Do you know what he did? The very next morning, as soon as he found out, he jumped in front of a train and he killed himself. This happened in Germany. He killed himself. And for anyone else, any Muslim, any believer, you think to yourself, well, yes, I've lost this, but I still have much more left. But the point is, if a person only focuses on the loss and they cannot see the bigger picture, then they will only focus on what they have lost and they will not be able to see the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one good way for us as Muslims to deal with hardship in life, whether our children are not listening to us, whether we are going through any particular difficulty, and the difficulties are so many we cannot even mention them. This is the way life works. But if you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with a family, with a home, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me in ways that I can't even imagine, then it puts everything into perspective. And finally, towards the end, the last verse of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala re-emphasizes this point to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Actually, before that, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the blessings that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam received, he gives him clear instructions. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. And when it comes to the one who is asking, do not deny them. This shows us in Islam that one of the best ways to get away from any sadness or any depression, as we mentioned in the khutbah, it is being in the service of others. If you help the yatim, the orphans, and if you help the person who is asking in need of help, this will remove your focus from your own sorrow, and it will help you in providing for others. And it is true what the Prophet ﷺ told us. He said, whoever, man kana fi awni akhi, whoever is in the help of his brother, كان الله في عونه, or كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, that whoever helps another person for the sake of Allah, his brother, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help that person in return. So if you are going through difficulty in life, one of the best ways of dealing with it is by extending your help to others. Not only does it give you peace, but the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not far away. Finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. And when it comes to the ni'am, the blessings of Allah, of your Lord, فَحَدِّثْ, then speak about it. And this is a very, very powerful thing, because if you notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَحَدِّثْ, speak about it. When you speak about something, you put it into existence, you make it more real. It's not just acknowledge it, but speak about it. This is a different level. When you mention to others around you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you, blessed me, and so on, then that will sink into your conscious mind. And this is a very powerful thing. The Prophet ﷺ used to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see the traces of his blessings on his slave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see the traces of the blessings on his slaves. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you, not only do you say Alhamdulillah and you acknowledge it, but part of acknowledging it is to come with the right actions. As we mentioned in the past, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Dawood alayhi salam, and he says, اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. The family of Dawood alayhi salam, they came with actions of gratefulness. They showed gratitude through their actions. So in Islam, it is not just to say Alhamdulillah, we say Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, Alhamdulillahi awwalan wa akhirah, and at the same time we follow it up. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you, you are a young man, young woman with great strength, then it makes sense for you to show that gratitude by coming to the masjid, by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you mentioned after one of the salawat, there might come a time where all those blessings are stripped away from you. There might come a time where you really want to, you have it in your heart, you want to come to the masjid, you want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed that blessing from you, and you cannot go to the masjid. And we've seen this just now with this whole COVID pandemic that is happening. When the masjid was shut down, it reminds us all that these things are not in our hands. These things are not in our hands. And if we do not show that gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there might come a time where either we as a community are stripped of that privilege of worshipping Allah, or as individuals. You have seen the people who are sick at hospitals. You have seen the seniors who cannot come to the masjid, and so on and so forth. So we need to show this gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by speaking about it amongst ourselves and also putting it into action. Finally, if you remember in the tafsir class where we went through Surah Al-Qasas, one of the stories that we highlighted towards the end was the story of Qarun, and how the people around Qarun would remind him, and they would say, وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ, and do good to others in the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done good to you. Show that, share that blessings with others. And this is a reminder for every single person, because you might not be as rich as Qarun was, but definitely you are blessed as a human being, as a Muslim. And often we sit back and we think, if once I become a millionaire, I'm going to give in charity. Once I become rich, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a masjid when I become rich. Everyone thinks like this. But richness is not in terms of the physical wealth that you have. Richness is inside your heart. If you are rich and charitable with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, even if you have $100, whatever you have, the little knowledge you have, if you pass it on, if you teach it, not only does it inshallah become sadaqatun jariyah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more than you could imagine. So inshallah, with that, we will conclude today's halaqah. And again, today's halaqah was to highlight some of the things that needed to be explained. So inshallah, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.